Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the old world. I hope you're all doing well, and today, my friends, we're back with the showdown between the Dinos and the High Elves. It's actually going to be Oxyotl coming in with the double Ancient Salamander. Now, Ancient Salamander saw a very minimal amount of play in Warhammer 2. They kind of were used as niche picks depending on maps. They can kind of sit behind little hills or line of sighting objects and shoot up and over, and actually do have very good armor piercing value, so they can punch through some armor for sure. A little bit concerned about them fighting against like Elvish archers in open field, considering, I mean, they do have 95 armor. I suppose keeps them durable against archers, but I still feel like they're kind of vulnerable. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see how he utilizes his salamanders and if they can pay for themselves. Lizardmen obviously have a huge roster, and one of the running memes of Lizardmen is that they have gotten so many DLCs but barely any good units, which certainly has a lot of truth as it pertains to multiplayer. Although in campaign, I wonder what people do in campaign. They probably just like to have like doom stacks like Steganons and things like that, or the character Steganons. Anyways, Saurus in the front line. Saurus, take a while to push off a point. They're not going to be, I mean, they hit hard, but their melee attack is quite low, so sometimes they can struggle to connect with some of the high elf units that do have very high melee defense, which is most of their roster with the most recent patch, which is quite cool. I mean, it didn't change the melee defense, but of course the cost got more appropriate for a lot of elven units, so it became more cost effective. So 2 Salamanders. We do have a Skink Oracle with Earthblood, and that's it. Now, this thing can shoot and fight against Phoenixes, and Oxyotl is a really good sniper as well. So if you're expecting, birds, Phoenixes, all that, he comes to party. Now, for the Elvish army, best unit on the roster, hands down, Lothar and Seaguard. I think these guys are amazing, especially after the cost reduction. Both variants got 50 gold taken off, so I think basic variants cost 550 with the shielded ones being 600 or something like that. Maybe like 600, 650. Couldn't quite remember the cost off the top of my head. But they were already very good, and with the cost reduction, that's going to be quite good for them. White lines of Grace in the back. We got Larry, backed up by Phoenix Guard and Frostfire. Frostfire Phoenix? Yeah, Frostfire Phoenix. They don't have the Rebirth, but they do have some auras. And I know for the longest time in Warhammer 2, the dreaded Frostfire Phoenix did not actually apply its Frost debuff, which is really funny. But yeah, I mean, it didn't have it. It didn't have like an AoE effect. It just had like some weird defensive abilities and whatnot. So the battle's underway. We do see the Saurus moving up, as well as the Ancient Salamanders. A little bit of a shooting party here from the Dinos, but yeah, there is a Bolt Thrower from the High Elves. The Bolt Thrower is a very, very solid counter against Salamanders, and the character here does have Earthblood, so I suppose if both Salamanders kind of get buttered up a little bit and end up taking some damage, you could move them close together and just get Earthbloods and get pretty good value. Now, they do have 160 range, which is pretty far. A lot of factions like Powder units have like 140 range, and sometimes even like lower tier bow units have like 120 to 140. Mostly crossbow type units will be able to range these guys, but Ancient Salamander's juking a little bit, going to be turning about face, and is it going to move in and get shots? I think against Lothar and Seaguard, it probably could be worth it, especially if you like are really sweaty on your micro, and as soon as the Lothar and Seaguard shoot back, you start moving. So Salamander shot coming in. Let's see what kind of damage we get going into the Seaguard there. So not bad. It does take out about 7 models, which isn't insignificant. And good juking here. You can see he's like scooting and shooting, doing the dreaded StarCraft micro. And now big firepower is coming in. Talons of Torquilada. Do these things have any sort of fire resist? It does not look like it. And they do rampage. I think, no, they have primal instincts. That's right. So they got buffed up a little bit. It'd be pretty terrible if those things rampage, to be honest. Now, the Phoenix on the hunt, being shot by the Skink Oracle, as well as Oxyotl, which is going to be putting some good pressure on it. And even if the Phoenix lands, if the Ancient Salamanders pull back, they do have some supporting elements that they could, fight with. They could fight with the Skink Oracle in melee, perhaps. But one of the Salamanders is being hunted, while the other one's going to be turning about face, ripping shots into White Lines of Grace, and not bad damage. That was actually pretty darn good. For sure, want to be shooting the Phoenix Guard. Those are the big money kind of angle you want to take right there. Earthblood going down, going to be hitting the Salamander. And in the meantime, Skink Oracle and Oxyotl really not doing a whole lot, unfortunately. The Phoenix sticking and moving. And that's why, oftentimes when it comes to killing SEMs, you need like powder units, because like these kind of like darts and like arrows, like they can really be juked pretty easily. So big mistake here with the Ancient Salamander, though. This thing needs to be pulled back. I don't have my drawing tools on this particular setup here, but the Ancient Salamander needs to be pulling back to the backfield and getting the support of these characters up close, because right now it's just kind of running around getting popped in the face, certainly not having the best of times. So shots coming in from Lothar and Seaguard. These are shielded Saurus, so they're going to be tanking it like champs, and it looks like this Ancient Salamander should get back, while the other one continues to rip shots from the side. Looking at the value trading, it's pretty even. Forsaken, of course, has gotten some good trading. That Salamander should come back, and it looks like Oxyotl and the Oracle really are struggling to hit this Phoenix, although now that it's and it actually just dodged that attack animation that moment by like doing a forward sweeping attack, which was pretty funny. But Earthblood going down, Saurus Battle Line's going to be colliding with the High Elves, and now in the back we do get more Salamanders coming out. This guy's the Lord of Salamanders. It's going to be the Umbral Tide. So Umbral Tide, of course, are anti-large shooting, and it's going to put even more firepower into the Frostheart Phoenix. And now suddenly we're starting to see some of the Oracle and Oxyotl play connecting here. And of course, the firepower coming in should be pretty good. Yeah, big stuff from Umbral Tide. Now, Umbral Tide does have stock, so the High Elf players probably did not see that coming. So those guys were able to get in. Salamander's going to be juking once again, going back and forth and back and forth. You can see that's kind of the classic way to dodge. But Saurus do lose to White Lions pretty decisively. 69 models, that's right, they know how to live. But the armor on the White Lions of Krace and their very, very good combat stats give them the edge in my experience. And what little armor the Saurus have, the White Lions of Krace are actually going to be able to effectively kind of punch through that here. So you can see the Saurus are shaken. White Lions have a massive numerical advantage, and the Saurus Warriors are going to get punched off the point. Here they've already lost to the Phoenix Guard, no surprises there. And the Lizardmen really, really are being pushed off the points. Granted, as far as value trading goes, it's not terrible. Larry is on the battlefield. Larry is that Foot Larry? Oh, no way. It's a Foot Larry with Tempest, and it looks like Foz Protection. And, of course, I would imagine the items as well. And, yeah, the Star of Avalorn for the healing. So that makes sense. It's an interesting build. I don't know how much I love Foz Protection. Here in the back, we see some Saurus advancing in, intercepted by the White Lions of Krace. And we do see the Frostheart Phoenix getting in and going after the Saurus Warriors with shields, getting a little bit of a terror route there, but these Umbral Tide boys aren't messing about. Despite taking some firepower from the Elves, they're punching a pretty big hole into the Frostheart Phoenix here, and I do not believe the Frostheart Phoenix is like weak to fire. It's not like it's going to be melting ice or anything like that. No reinforcements coming in. Lizards are saving up. High Elves sending in quite a bit of reinforcements from their side. Silver and Guard and White Lions of Krace, both pretty good fighty units, and again, cost reductions across the board for the High Elves have been very good. I'm happy. Like, even if High Elves we find them to be slightly overtuned, which I don't think is going to be the case, but even if we do, like, High Elves have been terrible since like 2017. Like, just let them be good for the rest of Warhammer 3, and we'll call it a day, right? So here, Umbral Tide getting popped. They got caught up a little bit. Looks like they have the dreaded file micro right there, as the Ancient Salamander is going to be shot by those units. And here we do have the Phoenix kind of routing back. It's not the fancy Phoenix that has a rebirth, so sadly it's not going to be enjoying itself as much. And here on the side, we do actually see the Colossadon Hunters. So the Lizardman player whipped out the Colossadon Hunters, and I didn't see them flying up the side of the map. And they do have anti-large, and fighting in the trees, it has a penalty for them in terms of their damage or their output, but it also screens them from the archers a little bit, so I suppose there's some merit to that. But here we do see them getting torn apart, and on the other side, we see a vanguard of Ripperdactyls coming in. Okay, so Lizards are getting real spicy. I was starting to say the battle looked kind of bad for them up in the front. I was like, where are all their resources? But on the side points, he summoned in these Ripperdactyls and the Colossadon Hunters who are going to get back here and easily will shut these down. So both our crews going to be paying the troll toll. Looks like there's going to be some spearmen coming in, just basic spears to try and protect that. The Phoenix also getting involved in combat, but Ripperdactyls, even though these ones are not the anti-large variant, still do pack a bit of a punch. And you can see they're kind of getting through the Frostheart Phoenix. I mean, Ripperdactyls are kind of like similar to Vargeist in terms of damage output, but they're not unbreakable, and they, don't have all the undead BS that undead usually come with. So Ripperdactyls, get in the business. Here, Colossadon Hunters are chasing down the Illyrian Reavers. And on the other side, we do see the Skinks. So the Chameleon Skinks are going to be shooting up into the Phoenix Guard here. And looks like the Elves do have a triple cap. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3. So they're doing pretty good. Granted, the forces of the Lizards have gotten a bit of a value lead. Their backfield shenanigans have been causing quite a few problems. Colossadon Hunters going to loop up. And now the High Elves have a fair amount of assets back here committed to like dealing with these, but they're not quite able to. You can see one Bolt Thrower going down. The other Bolt Thrower is going to go down to the special attacks here of the Ripperdactyls as they move in. Get a nice rear charge right there. And the High Elf Archer line's doing good, though. And you can tell the Lizard player's juking. He's like pulling back and forth with the Salamanders. Salamanders continue to rip pretty good shots here, shooting into the Phoenix Guard that are sitting on the point. Archers using the dreaded face-to-foot style. The Chameleon Skinks are just eat all the arrows to the face until they run out of ammo. What is Oxyalotl shooting? He does have the Master Predator online. I would imagine he's probably just shooting at the Phoenix Guard, which isn't a bad idea. Just wearing down those elite armored units. You can see he does pick off a couple of them there, certainly cost effective. But the Elves able to get a nice trade in the backfield as they do take down those Ripperdactyls. And the Frostheart Phoenix lives with 700 HP. Now, more infantry coming out, Rangers and whatnot. It's a pretty big point lead for the Dinos. If the Dinos manage to get enough of a point lead, it could become like a Helm's Deep situation. That's for sure. But the Lizards do have a big shooting advantage now. They have all their Salamanders and the Ancient Salamanders, and we still have the Oracle as well as the Oxyalotl putting quite a bit of firepower in. But of course, these Lothern Sea Guard are very, very good here. They're going to be incredibly tough to remove. And I guess the approach the Lizards are taking is like, hey, let's just run them out of ammo with our faces. That's the classic tactic, and I use it all the time as well with my Empire War Wagons. Just let them shoot the wagons and heal the wagons and cause problems. Now, I like this. The Lizard player saved up resources to get a big Alpha Strike so his opponent couldn't react like in an efficient manner by saving up resources rather than spending as you get it. It kind of like if your opponent is just perpetually spending, they're not going to have the tools to react to what you summon, which is a very, very cool tactic in Domination. But side point, still owned by the Elves. Definitely should have kept these Saurus on the point. Could have maybe gotten that one. Middle point owned by the Elves. Top point owned by the Elves as well. Now, Clever Girls will be very good against White Lions of Krace. You can see multiple of those. They'll be okay against Rangers since Rangers lack armor piercing to get through their 90 armor, but the Spears, although they're in Sea Guard, will actually fend them off very, very effectively. But it seems like the dinos are getting a little bit of momentum. I actually don't know what happened to Larry. I think she might have gotten karate chopped while we were looking in the backfield, probably sniped by Oxyotl and maybe gooned by some of the ancient salamanders in melee combat. So it looks like she may have died. Let's actually check the penalty on the leadership, and the Lord is dead. Yeah, so Larry got the business, which is probably one of the reasons why the Lizards were able to get into this game. I think if Larry had just survived and been conservative, the Elves would be pretty far ahead right now. But clearly she's paid the toll, and she could have had like Tempest, right, for these Glostodon hunters and other tools. Definitely not a fan of Foot Larry, though. I feel like Larry wants to be used on a Phoenix. She has really good magic, and you want to be able to kind of apply it wherever is needed on the battlefield. So side objective finally going to be taken by some clever girls. So we do get some Feral Cold Ones grabbing this point here, and more clever girls going to be running across here, going after the Lothern Sea Guard, and more spears on their way up, as well as Silverin Guard and Spearmen here. So it looks like the Skink Oracle is getting into combat. Might be able to finish off this bird. The bird is sitting at 721 right here, so it's got a fair amount of HP, and I don't know how much I love the Skink Oracle getting down and dirty in combat here. I guess if it finishes off the bird, it's maybe worth. But still, that's your caster. I don't know about the Winds of Magic situation. I forgot to turn on the mod for this one. We'll have it on for the next ones. My apologies. But nonetheless, like, you probably want to pull back, and you probably want to retreat right there. Feral Cold Ones going to be looping around the side. We do also have more Feral Cold Ones coming into the backfield, so looking to dive back here onto the Elven forces. And Larry's back in business. She's out for blood. What does she have? Again, Phos Protection. Tempest is going to be very, very useful against the remnants of these Glostodon hunters, from keeping them from being impactful. And once again, a face-to-foot style, as the old Silverin Guard is kind of eating the ammunition of the Lizards now, and Salamanders and Ancient Salamanders going to be running out of ammo, but are they going to have enough time? We do have Spearmen guarding the high ground. Double red-crested skink should be able to overwhelm the spears, get one of them in the front, get the other one around the back, and surround it. Should be able to break the Spearmen relatively quickly. So it looks like it could perhaps be like a Helm's Deep type situation. We do see Star of Avalorn and Phos Protection going down. Really, really nice response there. Going to be healing up the bird. Although the bird is getting attacked by some of the better anti-large monsters in the game. These things really thump through large, and even with Phos Protection, putting its melee defense to 73, the anti-large bonus on Glostodon hunters is substantial at 15, and they hit very hard. But yeah, man, Larry's keeping that thing going. Tempest would be really good here, though. It would do a lot of damage and probably would rout the Glostodon hunters and maybe save your Pigeon. The Pigeon might still be able to be salvaged. You can see it's kind of running for the hills. As the Elves continue to move up the point, we do have Spearmen sitting here, as well as White Lines of Krace sitting on the other point. Salvos of firepower coming in from the Umbral Tide. Umbral Tide shooting into the Archers, and Rangers are now moving up to the high ground, which is a very, very good play by the Elves. Rangers will smack red-crested skinks. They'll give them the business. Their bonus versus infantry, their high melee defense. Rangers just objectively have better stats. With red-crested skinks, you're kind of paying for an armor-piercing unit. And again, a bit of a poison-applying unit as well, but they won't trade well into something that has physical resist, good stats, as well as a bonus versus infantry like Rangers. Maybe if they get the downhill charge, it could help them out a little bit. We'll have to see how that all unfolds. So Spears still standing on the point. We do have White Lines of Krace battling an Ancient Salamander. Lizard's getting a little bit, desperate at this point. They're like, the points are getting a little bit suspicious here. We better send in the crew to see what we can do. In the backfield, we got more White Lions coming in, but Glostodons and Cold Ones will absolutely wreck them. So what you would probably want would be Reavers here. Maybe just like Reaver spam, we'll have to see. Up on the high ground, Rangers have gotten into the red-crested skinks, and we do get some Ripperdactyls coming in. I love the usage of the Ripperdactyls. Pretty cool. I mean, the other one's got 1,100 value. I think they cost a little bit more than that, not too much, but they can definitely tear through some of the Elven infantry. As long as they don't get on top of the spears, they should be okay. Capture weight does favor the Elves here, and the Elves are holding it down right there. Now, finally, a very, very nice Tempest right there. That's going to do probably about 30-40% damage against the Ripperdactyls. It's a good spell. It slows them down, allows you to kind of shoot them if you need to. I think Tempest is very underrated in a lot of matchups, but High Magic, Apotheosis Tempest can be a decent kit. Outside of that, though, most of the spells in High Magic are pretty lackluster in my opinion. In Warhammer 2, Soul Quench was okay for like sniping artillery pieces and all that, but overall, it's, again, in my opinion, a little bit lackluster. So the bird's on the run, and yeah, it did about 25% damage. It's not that crazy, but still enough, and it's going to be off cooldown soon-ish. And here we do see the Lizards going for the high ground objective, White Lines and Larry moving, and the Ancient Salamander and the Skink Oracle, both of which are still pretty, decent in melee, hunting Larry. And I would imagine the Elvish player here, Forsaken, is probably really feeling the error of his ways with bringing Foot Larry. Perhaps it was a mistake. Who knows? We'll have to see if he's watching the video. He can let us know. But here we do see the big fight. Frostheart Phoenix is really good here. It's lowering the combat stats of all nearby enemies, and also the Star of Avalorn onto the Frostheart Phoenix is very, very good. Lizards have taken over the bottom objective finally. There are some White Lines of Krace coming, so the Elves still do have some tools to maybe get this back. But it does very much look like it's going to be a Helm's Deep now, which is not going to be easy for the Lizards to get back, especially because Forsaken has managed to keep the Frostheart Phoenix alive. He's kept this thing kind of going, and it's really, really, just lowering the stats of all these nearby units. It lowers speed, it lowers several other variables. White Lines of Crace battling into the Skink Oracle. Yeah, honestly, it's okay. Skink Oracle still has good AP. And Red Crested Skinks move it in. So yeah, a lot more units, but probably going to get terror routed, I would imagine. They are ITP while their Frenzy's active. I don't believe they have base ITP. It's a conditional ITP, which is upon their leadership being higher than 50%, I think is what it is. Let's take a look. Yeah, so it's a conditional ITP there. Now, Phoenix Guard moving in. That's going to be another really tough unit to remove. Will the Lizards be able to get enough capture weight? Maybe so. Chameleon Skinks do have good capture weight. Of course, I do not believe they're expendable, so they're going to be pretty good. So too will the Saurus. The Saurus will here, and the Red Crested Skinks themselves do also have good capture weight. So here are the Pigeon versus the Oracle. Frostheart Phoenix probably does well here. It's got 50 melee defense, just better stats. Skink Oracle's more of a hybrid monster. It's not like a pure fighter, whereas the Frostheart Phoenix is like a defensive tank fighter, so it's going to feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, you do get the Phoenix Guard. What you want to be doing in this situation is parking them on the edge of the objective and trying to buffer your opponent off it. Right now, the Lizards are getting quite a bit. I would imagine the Elves are just going to be sending as much as they can, sending out Reavers. They need to hold for just over 100 seconds. So about 100 seconds, give or take. So, it's getting there. A minute and 40 or so. White Lines of Crace. White Lines of Crace coming in. Are the Lizards going to be able to wrestle this one? Certainly not going to be easy. Elves are pretty stalwart, and Phoenix Guard, very, very tanky. They'll be able to dominate the Saurus, but again, at this point, it really comes down to capture weight. Like, because the Lizards are not easy to remove here either. Larry, there isn't any sort of magic like Pit of Shades to really punish these big, like, infantry blobs. And dude, this Phoenix has just been a raid boss this game. Despite getting caught a couple times and shot, it's still just causing huge problems. And I mean, it's got 2,000 HP. Falcon would be proud. It's his favorite unit. I know he loves his bad boy, so... Skink Oracle getting smacked, getting beaten down by the Frostheart Phoenix with the Phos Protection, making this thing 110 armor and 74 melee defense. Capture weight, though, is for the Lizards. They're getting it. Looks like there's going to be a big Earthblood coming down for the Lizard army, which is going to be incredibly strong from the Oracle. Tempest on top of the Clostodon Hunters is good. And now the Elves get the capture weight back just barely and just pushing units up onto the points. But I think that the Elves are going to hold on here. Dude, look at the capture weight going back and forth. I think one of the Elvish units might have been moved off the point. If we zoom out and look, we can see, it looks like they still have models on it. Elves are holding on to the point. Very, very close in terms of value, guys. Silver and Guard coming in the back. White Lines of Crace are on their way in. Spears holding for days. The Chad Frostheart Phoenix lowering all these stats probably has been the difference maker up on this high ground objective. And now there's only going to be another 30 seconds left. I don't think the High Elves are going to get pushed off. With Martial Prowess and Martial Mastery, these Phoenix Guard are just unholy. They're very tough to break off. You can see they have that nice ward save going and, Martial Mastery. So I believe that got changed. I don't think they had it before. Larry also getting the smackdown on Oxyotl. Look at that. Getting vengeance for being wronged earlier. And ladies and gentlemen, it would appear we have a High Elf win. A new age is upon us. GG, well played. Great game. That was a really fun one. Obviously, mistakes on both sides, but it didn't matter. It made for a really fun match. We got to see cool unit combos that are unorthodox, and they actually did okay, I guess. 1,300, I think they paid for themselves. The Oracle didn't do bad. Oxyotl did fine. The really, really cool play was the Ripperdactyls. Those things were very disruptive, for sure. I think if he had killed the Frostheart Phoenix earlier, I think the Lizards might have won that. I think they could have taken that high ground objective, which would have been pretty insane. Yeah, Foot Larry almost cost the Elves the game. I think you just got to put Larry on an Eagle. Talons and Torquelada actually got a lot as well. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time. Big thanks to you guys for sending in the replays, and shout out to Dragonborn for sending in a replay in which he lost. Not a lot of people do that, so shout out to you, man. And we will see you guys on the other side. Take care.